Hi, I'm Simon Farthing. I am the co-founder of Lanterna Consulting, and I'm posting this video ahead of National Conveyancing Week to reflect a little bit on the industry that we work in, some of the changes we're seeing, and to share some thoughts generally on the amazing work that you all do. So when I thought about what I wanted to say, I guess one of the things that, given what my organisation does, we help people with change and transformation, was to look at what was changing and what was most transformative and what was most exciting in the world of property right now. But it kind of made me think a little bit about what wasn't changing. So we often talk at events about this game-changing technology, the way that the profession won't look like it did 10 years ago and how suddenly everything is going to be dramatically different. And it's true to say that there's a lot of technology and a lot of process that's come through over the last few years that did have the potential, or does have the potential, to make the landscape incredibly different. When we think about things like AI currently, and I'll come back to that one, or we think about blockchain, the ability to share information between multiple parties, we've got some really exciting technology available to us. When we talk about data standards, and we do that a lot at the moment, what information should we share and how, we've probably been talking about data standards in the profession for over 20 years. I'm sure many of you remember things like Pisces and when that was being first talked about. So are we seeing things happening now, or technologies now, that are more transformative than they've previously been? In some respects, yes, because we've got a massive amount of computing power that we didn't have in the past. But equally, are we seeing change really happening? And actually, when it is happening, is it because we're driving it, or is it because it's happening to us? I think a lot of the things that we talked about, say 20 years ago, were how we would see conveyancing happening digitally. We'd see information shared instantaneously. We would have title documents that were accessible and could be reviewed online, and decisions made and documents drafted. And that the consequence of this would be, for consumers, a cheaper, quicker transaction. Yet the stats don't reflect that. From everything we see, that transactions are taking longer, that they're costing more, and consumer satisfaction, sadly, on the whole, is going down. Now, that's not to say that there aren't amazing reviews, because what we're seeing from clients is that they're loving the work that a lot of you are doing because of how you help them, and your understanding and your compassion, your engagement, and your ability to understand and resolve complex issues and make it seem easy. But what they really want is they want to be in their new homes or out of their old homes quicker, with less steps, with less costs, with less issue. And that isn't being addressed. So these kind of things don't really balance up. We have technology that's advancing, and we have a world where people's expectations are increasing, but we're not marrying this. And yet people's view of lawyers is the ones who are doing a great job are doing the best job ever. So perhaps it's why things aren't changing. So when I think back many, many years to when I was still practicing, one of the things that I recall was those kind of challenges you had where clients didn't really understand what was going on. So I remember an occasion where I'd been trying to get hold of a client for days leading up to a completion. They hadn't responded to the letters I'd sent them. They hadn't responded to the messages. I was getting nothing back, and the agent weren't able to get hold of them either. The way we resolved that was the agent and I got in our cars, we drove to the client, and we knocked on the front door. When we got there, we met a lady who was slightly confused about what completion actually meant. Yes, she'd read the letters, but she didn't really understand that it meant that the next day she would be physically moving out of her house. Now, that's not a great scenario to be in, and the agent and I had to get our heads together, phone some friends, phone some contacts, organise some removals, and actually started to help her get some stuff in her house sorted so she could be ready for the next day. Now, probably not my job to do that, probably not the agent's job. But what I felt there was a communication challenge, that we'd taken a bunch of things for granted. And ultimately, this was a human situation. Would AI have solved that? I don't think so. Would online access to case information solve that? No, I don't. What I probably took away from that was the ability to always check in with people about what they did understand, what they didn't understand, and how they felt about the process. So it's informative, I guess, for us to understand what we do, but not to then say it isn't about technology. So the technology is there to do some really amazing things. There's phenomenal risk when you're incredibly busy of missing something. And we think about reading a long lease, or we're looking at a title, and we're doing that hundreds of times over, the chances of missing something are increased. From a technology perspective, when we think about things like AI, we have the potential to use that technology to go through hundreds, thousands of documents at a consistently high quality level to spot the things we want to spot, that we've trained them to look for, to help and guide us. They become incredibly useful assistants. Will they replace us? Well, how can they? When ultimately this is a people business. What they can do, though, is they can actually make our lives easier, more effective, and de-risk us. But not without thinking about where they fit and how they fit. Which kind of brings me to the point, which is, in our industry, a lot of the time we have not embraced change. There's things that we could have done. When we talk about data standards, things like Pisces, we could have improved data quality years ago. We didn't. When we wanted to deal with sharing information, we've had access to things like blockchain, but we haven't really engaged with that, and it was there. So why haven't we? Well, quite often it's consensus. We don't all agree on how we're going to do it. We're all incredibly busy in the industry. If we want to change, I think we have to decide what change we want, because it's a really exciting time to take on new technologies, to make our lives less busy, to be less challenging in certain ways. But what we have to remember is this is people, process, and technology coming together. And if we want to change our futures, we have to decide what our futures need to be. And for me, I think that's very much about a human-centric view, embracing technology and providing the amazing service that you all do. So in 2025, good luck with change. Good luck with taking your businesses where you want to. And, just remember, this is about you. Ultimately, in a transaction, the people who make the difference are you. And if you see and hear your clients, you address their needs, not just their services, then you'll continue to be loved for the amazing services you provide. So thanks very much for listening, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.